Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a tutorial video. If you follow my Twitter, then you probably know why I'm so excited for this tutorial, and that is because I got a new microphone. So if you want to know updates like that, then make sure to follow my Twitter. I also tweet when I put out YouTube videos, so make sure to follow me if you want to know exactly when I post them. Alright, so getting into this tutorial, I am making a tutorial on how to add texture into Photoshop. A couple months ago, I actually did a tutorial on how to do texture in Blender. So as you can see here, I have a soldier which already has texture. But if I wanted to add like more metal, more grunge texture to his armor, how would I do that? So there is a way to do it in Blender, but I prefer to just do it in Photoshop because honestly, I think that is easier and it's more precise. So without further ado, let's get into this tutorial. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is obviously open Photoshop and open your render. Next, you want to make sure that you have a texture that you want to use with your GFX. I'm going to be using this one. All you have to do is just type in whatever material you want, like metal, and then follow that up with texture. And then once you open it into Photoshop, you'll want to copy and paste it into the current project that you have now. Making sure that I name all my layers. Alright, so once we have it copy and pasted, you want to make sure that it's not too oversized because obviously we want to be able to have the whole texture accessible. Alright, so for this tutorial, I'm going to be working on the helmet. So I'm going to zoom in onto the helmet and I'm going to just roughly place the texture onto the helmet. If you want to, you can lower the opacity a little bit so you know what you're doing. Now at this point, you don't have to accurately rotate it, you don't have to accurately warp it or anything. Just make sure that it's the correct scale that you want it on the helmet. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit, scale it down a little bit more, and that's good. Alright, so a side note, I am doing this tutorial on a mouse just to show you that you do not need a drawing tablet for this tutorial. Alright, so before we start removing excess, anything like that, we're going to want to warp this at least just a little bit, just so that it's a little bit more realistic. If you don't know what warp is, basically you can select a grid and you can warp it based on that, and you are not warping the whole picture, just this part. Alright, so to do that, you're going to want to press Ctrl+T, and then you're going to want to right click and go down to warp. If you do not see warp, then you're probably on the wrong bit mode. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to image mode, make sure you're not in the transform mode, go to image mode and click on 16 bits, or you can click on 18 bits. Alright, so now that you've done that, go to Ctrl+T, right click, go to warp. Now for this, it depends on what size your object is. For this, I think I'm only going to need a 4x4 because we're not going to be completely and utterly exact, and the helmet is pretty small compared to everything else in this object. Alright, so I'm just going to roughly warp this just so that it looks like it's actually on the helmet. Now if you do make a mistake, I don't think that you can actually Ctrl+Z, so you're just gonna need to manually fix it, or just like leave it if it's not that big of a deal. So I'm just going to warp this. Alright, so for these like sharp ones, I'm actually going to go into a 5x5, so I'm going to confirm this, and then I'm going to go back into Ctrl+T, right click, warp, and I'm going to do a 5x5. Alright, and then once you're done with that, you're going to want to go and head over to the lasso tool, and we're going to want to cut off the excess. Absolutely do not try to get it really close, get it exact, because we're going to revisit this, so just cut it out briefly. It does not have to be exact. And if you mess up like I did, all you have to do is just click this and click the areas where you messed up. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to select and inverse, and then we're just going to delete the extra. So now we're just going to turn it all the way up again, the opacity, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the blending mode into overlay. So if I turn it on and off, you can see the texture difference. I just love this so much. If I zoom out more, you can see it better. Instead of all shiny, you can see individually the kind of cuts and marks that he has on his helmet. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do before I do anything else is obviously I'm going to erase the extra outside of here. Again, you don't have to be like too specific about it. You just want to make sure that it's not overlaying onto anything that you don't want. Also, to make this easier, you can clip the texture onto the render, which all you have to do is just hold Alt and go into the middle of these and click. So now all you have to do really is just erase it from the render. Alright, so we are not done with this tutorial yet. Actually, we have one more step that I want to do, and it is actually to enhance the shading. So obviously this already looks really good, but we can enhance it a little bit further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer. I am going to press D so that I have white and black as my color selected, and if you want to switch between those, it's X. So I'm going to change this blending mode into overlay, and we are going to shade and highlight this. So you can see when I draw on with black, it gets darker, and when I draw on with white, it gets lighter. So this is kind of where a drawing tablet comes in handy, but like I said, I am going to be using a mouse just to show you that you can do this with a mouse. You'll just need a little bit more patience. So you're going to want to lower the flow to something really small, especially if you're using a mouse, and you're just going to layer and layer and layer. So here I can see there's an indent. Let me zoom out so you can see it better. There is an indent which creates a little bit of shadow, and I want to enhance this kind of bump a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go where it's a little bit darker, which let me just mark it out for you guys so you can see it better. So if you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see right here, it's darker than all these other places. So right here, and then also it's lighter in these places, probably because of some shine, and it's also darker here. And then I'm probably going to enhance or darken this part too, and maybe down here.
So in every art, one realizes there comes a point where
you can also take this as an opportunity to try and make things look a little bit more 3D, as you can see I'm doing here.
And then to achieve the perfection of the art, something has to happen of itself, which we variously call grace, inspiration, or tariki. And the problem that everybody...
So real quick before I go into highlighting, I want to show you guys how you can enhance scratches and other things like that. So here is a scratch that is mostly light, as you can see. And maybe you would just, go to white and just make it a little bit lighter. There you go, that enhances the scratch. But what you can actually do is you can make a small little shadow on the scratch, and it will enhance it more. And then instead of just doing all white onto the scratch, what you can do is you can go onto the edge and you can highlight the scratch. So that looks a little bit better than just highlighting this and just, drawing white over the scratch. Alright, so I think I am done with the shading, so let me show you a before and after. So as you can see, it adds a lot more detail, and obviously you can do way more detail than I did here. Obviously not every part of the body or every single GFX is going to be the same, so you're not going to use, well, you're not going to do the same thing every single time, but you can use the same tactics that I taught you. Like here, you're not going to really create scratches if you're not going to add a scratch texture, but what you can do is you can enhance the darks, and then you can enhance the lights, and then it makes it a little bit more 3D, as you can see. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Here is what it looks like with a background without any texture or shading, and here is with texture and shading, which makes it look a little bit more realistic and helps it blend in a little bit more. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, then make sure to like, and also if you like this kind of content, then make sure to subscribe to my channel. Again, if you have any feedback, any comments, any questions, then make sure to comment down below and I will respond as quickly as possible. Bye bye!